So we're going to animate with After Effects a butterfly. And I already have some artwork created for it, but I want to start with exactly that point. So before I can really do anything in After Effects, I need to build my artwork. So whether it's going to be a photo that I'm going to try to animate, or whether it's more illustrative, I need to build all of my elements that I'm going to animate on different layers in either Illustrator or Photoshop. So this example, we take a look at my layers. I've got my left wing, my right wing, and my body all on separate layers. And that's the really important first step to all of this. I can't stress enough the need to pre-plan, to quickly storyboard whatever it is you're going to animate, because in After Effects, it's not true 3D. We're not working with volumes, spheres, cubes, that kind of thing. We're working with flat two-dimensional circles, squares, using the pen tool, different things like that have an X dimension, a Y dimension, but there is no Z dimension, no depth. So the 3D tools in Illustrator or in InDesign are actually kind of 2.5D more than they are 3D. And all that is to say that, you're animating two-dimensional objects through a method that kind of emulates or fakes the third dimension. So we need to pre-plan. Here's a butterfly, different layers. If I jump over here to Photoshop, I've got a Swiss Army knife. And what's important is, however this is going to look, that's what I need to consider when I'm building this out. So, here on my Swiss Army knife, if I turn off this face layer, that's just the spread part. And then every individual blade all the way through is its own separate layer. And they're all positioned where they'll be, and they're going to hinge off of, these specific points. So it's all built to facilitate this whenever I get into Illustrator or into After Effects. So when we're preparing our artwork, Illustrator or Photoshop, anything that we're going to animate, any individual items are going to be on separate layers. And if I build a piece of artwork all on one layer, when I import it into After Effects, it's going to come in as a single element, a single glob that I won't be able really to break apart and animate. So pre-planning, setting your file up before you start is a very important first step. So I've got this butterfly. Let's see here. All right, so I've got this butterfly. Here's my file. So I'm just going to drag this on into my project window. And when I import anything with layers, I need to pay attention to this import dialog. So if I import this just as a composition, the object is as just footage, which is going to be the default, I believe. It's going to merge all the layers, or I can choose individual layers. But if I import as a composition, it will take all of my individual layers, make them individual elements, and then put them all together in a composition. So what I'll have in After Effects will emulate what I have in Illustrator, where I've got an artboard and then 3 different layers. If I make this composition, footage dimension is going to be the layer size. Say OK. You'll see that here are my project window. Here's my left, my right, my body. And if I open up the composition, this looks just like my Illustrator file. So preparing your artwork, bringing it into After Effects, big first step. So when I'm looking at an object I'm going to animate, I really need to kind of break it down and identify all the parts. So for a butterfly, what I want to do is animate the wings, and I'm going to move my center point on each of these objects right to wherever it is that those wings hinge, they hinge on the body. So if you think about, watch video on or think about, butterfly flying around, the wings bend or hinge right against the body. So I'm going to start by going up here to my pan behind or anchor point tool. And then I am just going to zoom in here a little bit and place this right where I want this to hinge. And what this is creating this is my point of rotation. So I'm going to animate the wings by rotating them, but they're going to rotate on this point. And if you don't quite get that here, you'll see it whenever I get to that part. But they hinge right here against the body. And I don't know, I like just to make sure things are as accurate as I can. I mean, when you cut corners, sooner or later, it frequently comes back to bite you. So this is pretty much all the setup I really need to do. I think I am going to move the center point of my body up to closer to where those wings hinge. There we go. And then I need to turn these into a 3D object. So right now there's still 2 dimensions, still 2D. And if we go down here to our composition, or down there to our timeline, you'll see that we've got all these different switches. And if I screen snap real quick and zoom in, this box is our 3D switch. So if I click on each of those boxes, it's going to turn each of those items into a 3D item. And here's the primary difference. So if I select all of these, 2 dimensions, I just see, basically it's, I can move things on the X and on the Y. But with all these selected, if I come over here to this 3D switch, turn that on, watch what happens to my display. It places a rotation widget on each of those center points. And these become, this widget now works in 3 dimensions, the X dimension, the Y dimension, and the Z, or the Z, which will give us our depth. So all my objects are now 3D. I haven't even looked at a 3D camera yet, and I probably won't here, because what I actually want to do is animate this butterfly flying, sort of, flying through the air and then maybe land or something like that. So I also always look at everything from a standpoint of what actors are present in my scene. And in this case, it's just a butterfly. So I'm going to create my art for the butterfly. And through, storyboarding and kind of pre-planning and sketching, I know what angle I want this to fly in at. So I'm going to build it to that angle and then animate it in another composition. So we got all this. I'm going to come down here to the bottom of my window, and I'm using the standard layout. If I click on one view and go to 4 views, you'll see that I now have a top, front, and a right view. So this is my front. I'm going to select one of these. Let's take a look at my left wing. I'm going to turn this down and turn down my transform tools. So you'll see, because I'm working in 3 dimensions, I've got 3 rotation points as well as an orientation. And I'm going to try to use just the specific rotation point that I need. So rotated things before. So I think Y is what I want. Yeah. So you can see how that moves. And actually, before I animate any of these things, there's one last thing I need to do. I'm creating a single object here. The wings have to follow the body. So I'm just going to I'm going to select my left and right wing, and I'm going to parent them to the body. So now if I select just the body, Wherever I move that body, the wings follow. And however I rotate the body, the wings are going to follow. So I kind of want to set this up so I've got a rough idea of the angle that I'm going to be working with. So using the body, I suppose it's important to point out too, I'm parenting the wings to the body. You could add a null and parent all three objects to that null. That'll do the same basic thing. But from my point of view, this kind of keeps things simpler. So I am going to the body. This is my active camera up here. So I'm going to rotate this. And I'm going to pull it, whoops, not back. I want to pull it down. And then maybe I will rotate, let's see. Rotate this around just a little bit. Like I said, it depends upon the angle that you want this at. You got to kind of spend a little bit of time setting this up initially anyway. You can always go back and modify it later. But I just want to get something that's fairly representative. The other thing I have going on here, I made a pretty big piece of artwork. I always make things oversized because the last thing you want to do is run out of resolution after setting all of this up. So I've kind of got this rotated. You can see that my wings are going out of my composition area. If I come back over here to my project window, right-click on Butterfly, go to Composition Settings, I can change the composition size. So I'm going to make it bigger overall just to be sure that I don't have any trouble. And I can always change this again later too, but this is just an actor. We're going to place him into a composition that's going to be sized to our actual video. So we've kind of got him moved into place. And then I just like being able to look at all three views, but I'm going to go back to just a single view here. And we're going to have something else going on that I'll point out here in a moment. But if I grab this body, and let's say that, let's do that and pull it down here. Makes the body itself look a little weird. I'm going to kind of try and cheat this because remember, it's only a flat two-dimensional object. This actually doesn't look horrible, but I'm going to try and, because things happen quickly and it's going to be kind of small, we might be able to fool the viewer a little bit. So I'm just going to duplicate my body. So select the body. I want to duplicate it. Make sure that body 2 is parented to my original body. And then I'm just going to rotate body 2 90 degrees to make it look a little more dimensional. And maybe that's better, maybe it's probably not. It depends upon the angle that I'm going to be doing this at, I guess, more than anything else. So we'll leave that for now. I can always turn that extra layer off, but I just wanted to do something to kind of get a little bit more dimensionality into that if I could. Actually kind of makes him look like he's got a nose. So let's start with our first wing. I want to open the left and right wing. I want to open the rotation values. And we're going to be working with the Y rotation here. So I would take a moment just and see, try each of these, see which ones you want to rotate. It is the Y. So these all rotate in different directions. So I'm going to start by bringing my wing down a bit, down to about -16. And my playhead's at the very beginning. And I'm going to set a keyframe for that. And then I'm going to go to my right wing. And I'm going to do the same thing there. I'm going to rotate that down to about -16. Or whatever value makes sense to you, whatever looks best. Do that. And then I'm going to go out here to a second. And I'm going to set my top point. So I can continue to use the Y rotation in my transform here, or the green arc is my Y rotation. So if I swing that up to about 60 or so, minus 60, and then we get our, actually that modifies my orientation. I do want to use I'm going to use my transform tools, rotate this up to about minus 40, minus 43 or so. And I'm going to do the same thing, and that'll set my keyframe. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. That's 46. So I'll adjust this to 46. Yep. Minus 46. So let's go back to our four views here and see what we've really got. I think I'm going to take that a little higher. Up to about minus 54, and this one we'll take to 54. All right. So now I've got my two positions. Not bad. So that's a good start. So now I just need to loop this. So I can do this two ways. By setting two positions, if I and I started out with 1 second because we can adjust the timing later on, but I'm just going to copy those two keyframes, go out here to 2 seconds and paste them, and go out here to 4 seconds and paste them, 6 seconds, 8 seconds. And I'll do the same thing here. Copy that, paste those. So now, when I play it, they rotate, they loop. So that's one way of going about this. I also think we should probably easy ease all of these keyframes just so it's a little more natural looking and not quite so mechanical. So let's select all those, keyframe assistant, easy ease. Do the same thing here. Right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. And now when we watch this, it's a little softer, a little more natural, kind of like you would expect. All right. So let's say that our timing isn't what we want. Say it's just too slow. So if I select all of these, then I hold down my Option key and click on the last one. I can adjust this timing overall. And let's drop it down to 5 seconds. And that speeds up our flapping wings a little bit. And we can go as far as we want to with this. This is one way you can loop through something like this. It's just sort of a methodical approach to it. But there are also in After Effects what are referred to as expressions. And expressions are little pieces of script or JavaScript that you can type and will automate things for you. So while this works great, I mean, I can duplicate these, while it works okay, I'm going to delete all of these. I'm going to keep my original 2 keyframes here. Come out to my second one. I'm going to have to do these individually, but I'm going to select this keyframe and come over here to my stopwatch, hold down my Option key. And this is important because if you don't hold down the Option key, if you just click on that stopwatch, it'll erase all your keyframes. So hold down the Option key and click, and it gives you an expression window. And we want to loop this animation that we just did. So we're going to loop out, and we're going to do it in a ping pong kind of fashion. So, we go, our wings are down, then they're up, and then we want to be down again and up again, down again, up again. So there are different methods of looping, but I'm just going to start typing, and you'll see that it gives me a suggestion, hit return. And then within the parentheses, I'm going to use a single quote. And there are different options: continue, cycle, offset, and ping pong. Feel free to play around with these, but we're going to use ping pong. And then I'm going to come down here to this keyframe, hold down my option key, click on that. Loop out. And we're going to ping pong. So here's what happens as a result of that. So I've set 2 keyframes. Maybe I want to slow it down. Maybe I want to speed it up. I only have 2 keyframes to contend with, and the expression is doing the work of looping it. The other benefit to doing it this way is, what if 15 seconds on the length of this composition isn't enough? What if I need to lengthen this out to 20? I go into my composition settings, I change the duration to 20, I stretch my art elements out to the end of that frame, and this looping fills in all of those gaps. So expressions take a little bit of getting used to. They are worth learning, but you don't have to. There are, some things that definitely is necessary, but not everything. So we've got our composition now of our butterfly and his flapping wings. So I'm going to create a new composition now, and this is going to be our actor. Basically, we're going to take this and we're going to animate it through our scene. So I'm going to create a new composition, and it's going to be 1920 by 1080, and we'll say OK. And I'm going to drop my butterfly into this composition. And it's nice and big, so I'm just going to scale him down. So I've taken an object that I've animated in 3D, and I've placed it in a new composition. But this is just a 2D composition. I haven't, and I'm not going to, although I could. I'm not going to turn this into a 3D object. I'm going to leave this alone as it is. And I'm going to begin by, I want to move my center point. I just like having my center point match my animation paths. And I'm going to animate this flying across the screen. So at the beginning of our composition, I'm going to drag him out here, set a position keyframe, and then at about 4 seconds, I'm going to drag him over here. And now I've got a butterfly flying through my scene. And we can stop here if we want to, but, we can add maybe 2 seconds. I actually want him to be down here. Let's go back over here to 4 seconds. Maybe I want this to be up higher. I don't know. Kind of making it up. Maybe here he doesn't start off, so maybe here he starts up here. I don't know. Do that. So now when he comes in, down, goes up. It's very linear. It's not very natural looking. Pull him about to the middle. I can select these points on my path. I'm going to right-click on them. And there's a keyframe interpolation, because each of those points represents a keyframe. Keyframe interpolation. And I'm going to change, there's different ways we can interpolate each of these points. I want to go to spatial and change it to continuous Bezier. Like that. And then I can, and now I've got a flight path that's a little more natural. Not too bad. So he flew through. And I want to show one other way we can do this. So that's one way of animating that path. I'm going to delete all of that, and which got rid of my keyframes. I'm going to actually draw out the path that I want my butterfly to take. So let's start over here. Pen tool. And do this. All right. We got that path, we got this shape. I'm going to go into this shape. And what I can do is I can copy this path out of that shape. I can paste it into the position or scale or any transform node. I'm going to go paste it in position, and each of these points are going to become keyframes along the path of this butterfly as he flies through the air. So I'm going to open up my shape layer, open up contents, open up shape, go down to path, and select that path and copy it. Command C. Hide that. Matter of fact, I can delete it now if I wanted to. Maybe I have use for it later. I don't know. And then I'm just going to place my playhead right at the very beginning, select my position, and paste. See, each of those points became keyframes. And I can edit these after the fact if I need to. So I can grab this point. Whoops. They're all selected down here. So if I grab this point, this point, pull him out there. Let's see what I got. It's a little bit different. And I can make all of these, I can easy ease all of these. If that's too fast, I can select them all, hold down my Option key, and drag them out. Drag them out to 4 seconds. Maybe I want to fake that he's further off and gets closer. I can go out here to my original starting point, select my butterfly, tap S on my keyboard, set my scale, and then I'm going to set a scale keyframe right around 3 seconds as well. I can do that by, I don't want to click the stopwatch again, but I can come back over here and click on this, add a remove keyframe, the current time. That'll add a new keyframe. Then I'm just going to come back over here, scale my butterfly down way low. And he looks like he's sort of floating along the air a little bit. And then, we can do lots more things from here. I mean, right click, let's add a solid. Something nice and kind of dark bluish. Background. Do all sorts of fun things. Maybe I take this later and I actually utilize that path again, that shape path, and make a dotted line trailing. That might be interesting. But these are the basic ways this is the way you can use the 3D tools to create a 3D-like object to animate in After Effects. So, pick subject and go to town and see what you can do.